Yes.
Great, so how's everybody doing?
Pretty good, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. I just have a couple questions for you to start off. So how many of you guys have heard of virtual reality by raise of hands? Pretty much all of you. I'm pretty surprised by that. How many of you have tried or experienced anything related to it? Okay, not as much, but still most of you. Well, as long as you've gone to anything as much of a 3D movie, you've been to or experienced something with virtual reality. So it all started almost 2 centuries ago. There's been tons of research over that 200 years pretty much on artificial worlds. It actually started as early as 1838 when Charles Wheatstone's research demonstrated that the brain processes 2 different 2D images from each eye into a single object of 3 dimensions. So by viewing two side-by-side 2D images comes together, the brain can see like an image with more depth and immersion. Following that, 101 years later was when they patented what was called the ViewMaster stereoscope, which followed that same idea. It was used mostly just for virtual tourism though. And although this technology seems really simple, it's turned into something today that is huge, super complex, and still actually in a lot of ways hard to tackle. So in 1962, we're going to fast forward a lot now, again, Morton Healy, he developed what was called the Sensorama, which was an arcade-style theater cabinet, much like some of the prestige cinemas today. It stimulates all your senses, not just sight and sound like your regular movie. It has stereo speakers, 3D display, fans, a smell generator, and a vibrating chair. And this was the first attempt to fully immerse the viewer into the film. So throughout the years, we're keeping going through the future, engineers and inventors have played around with tons of different ideas actually with the artificial world simulators. And in the early 60s, they experimented with what became the first HMD, which stands for head-mounted display. It was also developed by Morton Healy. It was used by the military actually to allow vivid viewing of dangerous situations if they couldn't, be there in person. So even after over 100 years of studies under this idea, there was still no actual official term for the field of study. Then in 1987, the founder of the Visual Programming Lab, Jaron Lanier, termed it virtual reality, which is what we know of it as today, which is commonly shortened to VR. So if you hear me say VR in speech, that's what I mean. So Lanier developed a range of virtual reality gear, including the Data Glove and the iPhone head-mounted display. It's not the iPhones that we have in our pockets. It's spelled EYE, just like our eyes. They were the first company to commercialize virtual reality products. The Data Glove sold for roughly $9,000. The iPhone 1, there was 2. So the first one is $9,400. The second one is called the iPhone HRX, and that sold for $49,000. So, when new technology comes in to the world, prices are obviously going to be huge. These were major developments in the VR haptics. By the time the 90s came along, they started incorporating VR into video games, and that's kind of like the revolution for virtual reality. That's where it's all going these days, into video games, and they kind of found that, and it just clicked. So that's really widely where they're going today, although it does stem off into other areas. So there's a group called the Virtual Reality Group in the 90s. They launched a range of arcade games, and they were machines where the player would wear a set of VR goggles and play on gaming machines in real time using the stereoscopic 3D visuals, and often the machines were paired up so you could play multiplayer with other people around you in real time. So bringing, kind of like what I said before, bringing VR technology into the gaming world was a revolution. There were many attempts to do this throughout the 90s, like tons, and a lot of them were total flops. For example, 1993, Sega was a big thing in the 90s. They announced their new VR headset for their Genesis console at the Consumer Electronics Show. However, it had many technical difficulties, and for that reason, it forever remained just a prototype. Despite having 4 games already fully developed for the product, it was a major failure. In 1995, Nintendo released their Nintendo Virtual Boy. The hype was all about how it was the first portable VR console. First portable console that could play true 3D graphics. It was first released in Japan and North America, which was also a commercial failure because its lack of color. People didn't like it too much. It was all pretty much red and black. And also, it was really tough to use it in a comfortable position. So now, coming into the 21st century, the last 16 years have seen major advancements in VR technology, computer technology, and especially in our small, powerful devices. Mobile phones have broken through while prices are constantly being driven down, surprisingly. It kind of seems like they're always pretty high. The gaming industry has driven the creation of VR technology without restraint still. So virtual reality technology is surrounding our daily lives now in entertainment, job training. It's still being used in military training and tons of other scenarios it's being used in. It's surely clear, if you talk to anyone in the industry, 2016 so far is virtual reality's year. You can actually just go over to the multimedia department here and you can try on VR goggles that they have, because they're working with those actually. Just one of the things happening this year with virtual reality, there's the Oculus Rift, which will be competing with products from companies like Valve Corporation, HTC, Microsoft, Sony, and these big name companies are sure to be followed by many other enterprises. The future is now. There are multiple devices on the market and coming into the market that are going to finally answer the unfulfilled promises made by the virtual reality frenzy in the 90s. 2016 is virtual reality's year.